So I'm now in the Sundries section of the shop, and as you can see, he has an amazing range. So anybody may be doing their funeral wreaths or tributes, again we have the Oasis bases. Now remember that Oasis needs to be trimmed, like that's normal, it's never wrote on the packages. But also he has the larger size, like hearts, that's a great size heart, a very popular size, like for selling in shops. Again, he has the rings, and they're coming in all different sizes. Again, you never have enough rings. But also I want to show you some of the kind of more novelty kind of gadget ideas. So some of these you may not be, oops daisies, as I say, he had that underneath to keep that tilted, and I'm after just ruining his display. But these are called igloos. So think of what Eskimos live in, and then it'll remind you of the name. And you can see there's little holes in them, okay? So there's a couple of little jobs these do for. These would do on the top of a cake. So if you wanted to make a little wedding display using fresh flowers, but they do come in dried flowers as well, or sorry, dry oasis is what I meant to say. So if you want to make a dried version of it, here we go, there's your choice. So cake top decoration is one idea, but coming up to Christmas time, or to be honest, any time of the year, if you have an L bottle of wine floating around, okay, had to send Paula out for a bottle of wine, but I'd say she had this in the car hiding.
I'd say she did, yeah.
Said she had to go and buy it, but I'd say she has a little stash of it out the back there. So these will actually make your flower arrangement, say, flat on your counter first, okay? Now there is a little sticky pad on the back, see, like this, that you can peel off. But the thing is with the wet one, once it gets wet, it makes it quite heavy. So I advise you then to pick like 2 of the little holes on either side, insert a ribbon, do you know, the way in through them, and then basically tie it around the bottle, do you know what I mean? You can tie it up high there, but it's better down there, you know the way. And especially if it's a cheaper bottle of wine that you bought, it'll cover the label, it will. But that makes a lovely gift. So again, anybody may be doing corporate gifts, you know the way, or if maybe you're doing a fruit basket and you want to add a bottle of wine and you'd like to add in some fresh flowers as well, or maybe just table centers, and they could be empty bottles of wine as well. These are a great idea, and you don't see them around in all the wholesalers, so it's real handy to have. Another gadget that maybe you're not too familiar with is these ones, and these are called lip clips, L-E-K-L-I-P. And again, what happens is they will actually clip onto the end of a pew end or the back of a seat, okay? So if my arm was the pew end, the end of it, you see the way it just kind of clips onto it, and again, you have your flower arrangement. So like back in your workshop, you can make your flower arrangement. He has these in dry oasis as well, and then you just transport them to the church. Now I would advise go in advance to the church and check these and make sure that it actually fits onto it. I found once I was doing it and the end of the pew was kind of rounded, so what happened was it kept moving. But I see these ones are different. These have that little hole, you see, on either side. So if I had this version when I was doing it, I would have been able to bring a ribbon through it and then tie it around just to make it extra secure. So look out for your little clips. And normally with pew ends, I recommend tie on every second seat, starting from the top, and do a minimum of 5 or 6 on each side. So that brings you back 10 or 12 seats on either side of the aisle. Now another little gadget, and this is kind of new to me as in the size of them, okay? If you were on module 3 with me, you often hear me talking about the Auto Corso, which is for the automobile corsage, right? So these are a slightly smaller version of them, and you see the way they have a little sticky pad at the end, okay? Again, he has them in dry oasis or fresh oasis. So coming up to Christmas and you want to make an arrangement on your metal door, aluminium door, glass window.
Mirror.
Which?
A mirror.
A mirror, yeah. Patio doors, sliding doors, once it's on the right side of the sliding door. These are brilliant because they stick real secure, and most people are fascinated by them. Now, there isn't a mirror here in the room, in the shop, obviously, because it's not closed shop, but I'm going to just stick it to one of the Formica walls, and it will kind of like stick to it for the demonstration purposes only, but normally it's for like metal, glass, mirror, kind of like them kind of clear surface, an aluminium door or glass door. So just come around here with me. Hands, so I'm just using hand sanitizer, okay, on the back of it. But the idea is that you wet the back of it.
That one over there.
Okay. Oh, sorry, this one here. And then all you do is just press it, you see, onto the wall, and then you can see the way it just kind of holds secure. And then when you want to remove them, you just grab that little thing there, okay, there we go, and it comes back off, and it doesn't leave a wet patch on the wall. So they're a great little gadget to have in your toolbox. Another little gadget which I think is brilliant is the table decos. So you know when you want to make an arrangement down the centre of a table, maybe at a wedding, long function tables, and the hotel asks you to kind of keep them kind of narrow, and if you're using the spray trays, which he has the spray trays here as well, you know the way they normally hold a full block of foam. And by the way, I need to show you the foam that he has because he has a bargain price on that as well, where these are the table decos. So it's a narrower container and it has a narrower piece of oasis in it, so it's going to take up less space on the table. You know, like when you want to make sure that you have room for the fish and chips, if that's all that you're going to give them at the wedding. But again, the great thing is he also has them in dry foam, and that's the thing about a lot of wholesalers. They don't carry a good range, you know what I mean, or a big range of dry foam products. But this year with dried flowers and the pampas grass and artificial flowers being so popular, you know, that way you need all these containers in the dry foam. But also these come in a slightly smaller size. Now there's two of them together here, you know, that way. But again, if you can just kind of visualize them, so if you're trying to do just small arrangements, and with these I even think like Christmas time is you could do like small upright arrangements. Like obviously you're not going to come up really tall with them, but they would be ideal as well. And just talking about say table centers or even funeral sprays, this is another great container. So we call these florets, okay, or swag holders. And again, they come in different sizes. There's a smaller one over here. There we go. So it's like the shovel, but it already has the cage, you see, built around it, okay? Now again, there's a little hole at the top there that you can insert a ribbon through, and these will do then to make a door swag at Christmas time, and the ribbon will go over the door, or it can tie onto your knockers, as I do call it.
I think we're actually doing one of these as part of our Christmas programme, aren't we?
Yeah, and we'll be using one of these. But if you want to do a larger version, so we get lots of posh followers on our classes, okay, and also following us on Instagram and Facebook, and they live in posh houses, and posh houses have big posh doors on them. So if you want to do a bigger version of the swag, you know, that way, these are brilliant. And obviously because the foam is more than double the size, it'll hold double the amount of moisture, so it's going to hold your material fresher for a longer period. But again, you have the little hole in the section in the handle part there. But these would also do as a funeral spray. So again, if you're making like a funeral tribute or a grave arrangement or blessings of the grave, again, you're able to carry it, or your customer can carry it, but like your flowers will come out over the handle. You know me, I'm as blind as a bat, so I can't see the prices. I don't actually know whether there is a price on that.
No, there isn't on that one, no.
But any prices, just refer them all to Charlie in Evergreen Silk Plants, and either himself or Paula will get back to you. Now, this wasn't in this section, okay, but obviously over here we have the Posy Dishes, and the Posy Dishes, he has them in the large or the small one, and the small one is in a box and it's buried over the other side of the shop, so I haven't got the small one to show you, but he does have them here. But what I loved was these moss rings. Now most people, when they look at these moss rings, you're probably thinking of a wall hanging, but I'm actually thinking of a table center, okay? So what I would do with the smaller Posy Dish, which I know 100% will fit down into this hole. Do you know the way the square end is obviously not going to, these are what we call square end Posy dishes, but your normal smaller version saucer Posy dish will fit perfectly into that. You can then put your 1/6 of a block of foam, because that's the measurement that it takes, and then using a wire, you can wire across. There's wires on this frame here. Obviously,
and again, this is probably one that we will show in our Christmas programme.
We definitely will use this in the Christmas programme. And again, I would bring a wire across the top of the floral foam to secure it, and again I'll be able to do a fabulous upright arrangement or table center arrangement. And again, if there was any little robins flying around here, haven't come across them yet, but I'm sure he has the little robins, I'd be able to put the robins, you know, sitting on the moss ring, kind of going around the edge. So I just think that is a brilliant container, but most people looking at it are probably thinking wall hanging rather than table center. Okay, another item that he has here is the bridal holders, or the wedding bell holders. So these are for making wedding arrangements in, but there's other things that you can use it for. So with these handles, okay, the idea is that when you wet the floral foam, the surplus water, the handle is hollow, so the surplus water actually goes down into the handle part. So if you just take your time and keep slowly pouring more water, when you wet the foam, keep pouring more water on top of it really slow, your handle will actually fill up, okay? The idea would be, now for a wedding, I wouldn't actually fill up the handles, just to make people aware there, right? I'm thinking two, my mind is on overactive here. I'm thinking two things at the same time. But if it was a wedding bouquet, if there's surplus water in the handle, which normally happens when you wet the floral foam, when the bride is actually carrying it, the surplus water is feeding the oasis all the time to keep it hydrated. Now, obviously, if you fill the handle up with water, which I did mention there earlier, not for a wedding, because the water will be peeing out of it. But where this could also be used, everybody at home probably has a brass or a silver candlestick holder. Do you know that way? Or, do you remember we talked about the empty bottle of wine? Anyway, dear, did you want to help us empty this bottle of wine? If this bottle of wine was empty, I'd be able to show you, or even a bottle of gin, you know that way? Bottle of Bacardi, something like that. You will actually be able to stand the handle, do you see, down into the neck of the bottle, and then you can make your floral arrangement. And by keeping the handle topped up with water, do you know that way? It'll just keep the oasis kind of topped up and moist for a slightly longer period of time. Now, if using these for bridal work, I recommend to do small bridal bouquets in them. But normally what I would recommend my students is to maybe wire up the bottom part of the bouquet. So do kind of like a half-o, we'd call it, like an all wired bottom to the bouquet, and then the rest of the bouquet directly into the floral foam. Or again, there's 3 techniques for using these holders, and one of the more popular techniques that we use is using, again, the glue gun or with the floral glue, but it's a little bit too confusing to start explaining it here now, but I will cover it another day with you. Now I'm on the floral foam. So here in Evergreen Silk Plants, Charlie will sell you individual blocks of foam, okay? I haven't actually got a price for the individual blocks, but as I've said, direct all your questions directly to Charlie at Evergreen Silk Plants. I'll try and get his email address later on and I'll call it out to you. But this is the Victoria Floral Foam, which we've only recently experimented in the school, and to be honest, it's actually very good. It's nearly as good, or is as good, sorry, I should say, as the Oasis brand. So it says Victoria on it. Still taking, you know, the way 60 to 100 seconds to take up water, a little bit longer if the water is icy cold. So watch that as we get near Christmas, where your buckets of water will be a little bit colder than normal. So it'll take a little bit longer for your floral foam to soak up. Holds the water really well, so it's not dripping water, where with some brands, don't want to mention a brand, but there is a particular brand that I find the water keeps seeping out of it all the time. That's not inclined to happen, you know, the way with the wet Oasis. And he has a box of 20 blocks for €14.
It's $14.99.
Could be $14.99, $14.50, 14 something,
including
the VAT. That is a feckin' bargain, okay? So 20 blocks divided into less than €15. I'm not a calculator, but it's for nothing, do you know, that sort of way. So if you had somebody that maybe you could split a box of foam with, it's probably cheaper to buy a box of foam between 2 people, do you know that way? But again, if you come up here direct, or when you're ordering with him, because remember, he ships all over Ireland, ships all over the UK, you could get him to add in a couple of individual single blocks into your delivery.